You're over 60, and you throw out leftovers because you're afraid of reheating them. But the real risk happened hours before you ever touched the microwave. This isn't rare. Videos telling you to throw out your leftovers are everywhere right now. And most of them are missing the one detail that actually matters. By the time most people finish watching, they're more scared, but no safer because fear isn't the same thing as protection. Today, I'm going to show you exactly which parts of these warnings are true, which parts are exaggerated, and what actually protects you. My name is Dr. Liam Green, and this channel is dedicated to one thing: helping people over 60 understand what the research actually says, in plain language. Unlike a lot of the health content out there, I'm not going to just repeat a scary headline. I'm going to check it against the actual research and tell you what's real. Today I'm walking you through 4 foods you almost certainly reheat: rice, chicken, spinach, and eggs. Stay with me through all 4, because number 3 overturns something almost every health article gets wrong. And number 4, the one about eggs, is the one that surprised even me when I read the actual study. Before we get into the 4 foods, I need to give you one concept, because without it, nothing I'm about to say will fully make sense. I call it the cooling curve. When food comes off the stove, it's safe. But here's what changes in the hours after. Bacteria that survive cooking start multiplying the moment food sits between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. First, the longer food sits in that zone, the more bacteria or byproducts build up. Second, once those byproducts form, reheating often can't undo them. Third, this means the real danger point usually isn't the reheating, it's the cooling. It's a simple idea, but almost none of the viral, never reheat this videos ever mention it. That's the cooling curve. Keep it in mind as we go through each one. Food number 1, rice. Let me tell you about Gerald. 68, retired mechanic, Tampa. Every Sunday, he cooks a big pot of rice for the week. One week, he left it on the counter overnight before storing it. Here's the catch. Rice can carry a bacteria called Bacillus cereus, which produces a toxin while the rice sits at room temperature. That sounds like something reheating should fix. And here's where it gets counterintuitive. Reheating kills the bacteria, but it doesn't destroy the toxin they already made. The CDC recommends cooling cooked food quickly and getting it into the fridge within 2 hours. Food safety researchers who study Bacillus cereus outbreaks have traced most cases back to how long the rice sat out, not to the reheating itself. In other words, Gerald's mistake happened long before he ever turned the microwave on. What to do instead? Cool rice fast, refrigerate within 2 hours, and reheat it only once, thoroughly. Item number 2, chicken. Let me tell you about Linda. 63, part-time bookkeeper, Denver. She meal preps chicken every week and reheats it for lunch daily. Then she read an article warning her to stop. Here's what that article got half right. Cooking meat at high heat creates compounds called heterocyclic amines, which sounds alarming. And here's where it gets more complicated. These compounds form mainly from how the chicken was originally cooked, grilled, or fried at high heat, not from reheating it afterward. The International Agency for Research on Cancer lists some of these compounds as probable or possible carcinogens. But that finding comes from studies on well-done, high-heat cooked meat, the first cooking, not the reheated lunch days later. So Linda's daily habit of reheating her lunch was never really the issue researchers were describing. What to do instead? Cook chicken at moderate temperatures the first time, and reheat it gently. The reheating itself isn't the risk here. Item number 3, spinach. The one I promised would overturn what most health articles get wrong. Let me tell you about Arthur. 70, retired postal worker, Sacramento. He grows his own spinach and saves the extra for lunches later in the week. He'd read that reheating, it could be dangerous. Here's the fear behind that warning. Spinach is rich in natural nitrates, and those can convert into nitrates, then into nitrosamines, compounds linked to cancer. That sounds serious. And here's the twist almost nobody mentions, that conversion requires enzymes that come from bacteria, not from the vegetable itself. Researchers at McGill University's Office for Science and Society looked into this exact claim. They found that properly cooled, properly refrigerated spinach doesn't turn into nitrites in any meaningful way. The risk only shows up if the spinach wasn't cooled and stored correctly in the first place. The European Food Safety Authority points to the same conclusion. Storage matters far more than reheating. So Arthur's habit of saving his homegrown spinach for later in the week was never the risky part, as long as it went into the fridge promptly. What to do instead? Cool spinach quickly, refrigerate it promptly, and stop worrying about reheating it. Item number 4. Eggs. The one that genuinely surprised me when I first read the research. Let me tell you about Susan, 65, retired librarian, Portland. She hard-boils eggs every Sunday and eats them cold or reheated through the week. A video told her that was a mistake. Here's what that video wanted you to believe. Reheating eggs can oxidize the cholesterol in the yolk, forming compounds called oxysterols, and some articles call these compounds genotoxic, meaning they damage DNA. That word alone is enough to scare anyone. But here's the part the scary headlines never mention. When researchers actually tested common oxysterols directly on cells, they didn't find DNA damage under the conditions studied. A study published in the journal Nutrition and Cancer examined several common oxysterols and found no evidence of the genotoxic effect that's frequently claimed in popular articles. Oxysterols are still worth minimizing where you easily can, but the more extreme claims outrun the actual evidence. Susan's Sunday habit is a perfectly reasonable one. It just doesn't deserve the alarming labels some videos give it. What to do instead? Store hard-boiled eggs unpeeled, eat them cold when convenient, and don't feel you need to eliminate reheated eggs from your routine. I promised you something you can use. So here it is. Step 1. Check the cooling window. If food sat out for more than 2 hours after cooking, that's the real risk moment, not the reheating later. Step 2. Refrigerate quickly and in shallow containers, so food cools all the way through faster rather than staying warm at the center for hours. Step 3. Reheat food only once and heat it all the way through. Steam rising, not just warm at the edges. Step 4. Question the headline before you question your leftovers. If a video tells you to fear reheating itself, ask whether the real culprit is actually storage. Most of the time, it is. 4 foods, 4 different mechanisms, and 1 shared lesson. What happens before you refrigerate matters far more than what happens when you reheat. So, which of these 4 surprised you the most? Rice, chicken, spinach, or eggs? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. Your leftovers were never really the enemy. How you handled them in that first hour after cooking was what mattered all along.